Hi, this is Tom from Nightingale Games, giving a demo of War Room, a game designed by Larry Harris. And we're going to go over the land combat as opposed to the naval combat, which will use the flip side of the board in this example. And keep in mind these are prototype components. The final command and units will look more like this. Here's a stack, and they snap together so that you can even hold them at the top, and they have little bevels so you can break them apart more easily than, say, Lego. Here, I'll put two combined. Here's a German stack with the 84th, with some infantry at the bottom as yellow, some blue artillery, and some green armor. And these are the prototype pieces that I mentioned, which are a little larger. And then here is the final 17 millimeter for comparison. You can see they're a little bit smaller. Okay, so the Germans are coming in. We'll have a fight in the Baltic states is at stake. And so the Germans come in with a couple of infantry, a couple artillery, and some armor. And we'll keep the command token in this middle section here. And the Russians are there as the 94th. And we'll put the command token on the respective flag and the artillery and the infantry down below. Now they have to decide a particular stance, and oftentimes there's a difficult choice to be made here. Other times it's pretty obvious. For example, there's no air in this battle, no air units participating. So the choice for artillery between having greater strength with air versus greater strength with land is pretty obvious. So they're both going to be choosing the one that has a higher number of dice to roll for the artillery. And they'll be making these decisions at the same time, but the Germans must finalize their decision first because they happen to be first in turn order. If in doubt, go by turn order. So now they're just deciding whether they want to commit their infantry here, or perhaps even split them. And the difference between these two stances is these ones don't have an extra damage. They get eliminated immediately with one strike, whereas here they get 1, 2, but they have fewer dice to roll. So this is why this is an offensive stance versus a defensive stance. And they'll stick with a split for now. And the armor, let's say he doesn't want to lose his armor, so he's going to put them both up there. Here they have a very aggressive stance with 4, but they don't have any air. And they also are weaker in defense. And so he chose this one because he thinks he can wipe these guys out with what he has. And but it has an extra hit point, so to speak. So it can take 3 hits instead of the normal 2 before being eliminated. So then, once the Germans have finalized, the Russians can now decide theirs, and they are pretty sure they're going to lose, so they're going to go all out and try and destroy as much of the Germans as possible. If they thought they might be able to squeak by, or if the Baltic states was particularly important to them, they might try and hold on and shift one into the defensive stance so that they might be able to survive. But they're feeling a little bloodthirsty today, so they're going to choose that stance. And now we'll add up the number of land dice. Again, there's no air battle, so we don't need to worry about these numbers. So we're just going to count up the number of dice and mark it with a hotspot. So we've got 2, 3. And there's actually 2 artillery here. So 3 plus 4 is 7. 9, 11. So they have 11 dice. So we'll mark it with some hotspots there. And then over on the Russian side, they've got 2 times 3 is 6, and 2 times 2 is 4. So 4 plus 6 is 10. They'll be rolling 10 dice. And there's one other feature I forgot to mention called Force Advantage. So these armor units are not facing another of the same type that's opposing them. So they get a bonus to this value, so they'll get one more die to roll per unit. So they actually get 2 more, 13 dice to roll. So again, let's count up the Germans. 2, 3, 7, and now these are 3 apiece, so the 6, 13. Okay, they're going to go ahead and roll because they were first in turn order. And let's see what they got. You always resolve from bottom to the top. So we start with yellow, and we rolled 4 hits for yellow. 1, 2, 3, 4. So these, because they don't have the damage state, they are immediately killed. 1, 2, 3, and the extra one is wasted. And it looks like they didn't roll any blue, so then we would move on to green and red. There's no red on this side for the land. And blacks are wild, so the attacker always chooses or assigns the damage. So they'll be assigning one of those blacks there. And then finally, whites are resolved. And if they didn't have any, then it would be a miss, but he can assign the white damage to that, which was in the white triangle. So it's wild, but it has to be already damaged. So that was the first batch. You always roll in batches of 10 or less. And now there's a roll of 3. I'm guessing they're dead. Yes, 1, 2 blues. Kills off their forces. So they were completely eliminated, as the Russians expected, and the Germans, I would think. And now it's the Russians' chance to strike back to see how much damage they can cause. So they're rolling 10 dice. It was 6 plus 4, so here we go, just one batch. And looks like we've got 2 yellow here. So the attacker again chooses, so they'll take this 1 out. And this takes a wound, so that's the 2 yellow. Then we move up to blue. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Then we move on to green. 1, 2. And now we deal with the black. Now he has a choice. He can eliminate one of these. He knows that he's got 1 more white. So he'll probably want to eliminate something rather than push the greens further along. And you always have to eliminate a unit in the same row before damaging another one. So he chooses the black for this and a white for this, killing the most valuable units. And so this would then, he would have to pay any one resource to repair it. And then these would return to the map at the Baltic States location, and if he had captured it from the Russians, then he would claim the card, or if it was his in the first place, then that wouldn't matter. These units will go to the stress casualty list board and will accumulate stress in another phase, which we'll go over in a separate video. Thanks for watching.